Hi everyone, this is Gail. Welcome to my channel, Solo Female Travel, and is solo female travel gutsy? And we're going to talk about some of the stigma around solo female travel and kind of look at what happens if you take the female out of that. How does that change your perception? Let's see. Ooh! He handmade the movie accurate Polar Express train. That is cool. And he made the Golden Railroad spike. That, do you have a video on that? On like how you did that? If you did, share that link. If you want to send it to me or whatever, you can email it. Or you can message me on Facebook if you're on Facebook. But my email address, which is also down in the description box. It's Gail, Gayle, at gailcrabtree.com. Okay, hopefully. So, we have got on par, we're going to be talking about solo female travel. And part of the reason we talked about the service dog, in addition to giving you all the update, is that it factors in with solo female travel. When I hit the road with the service dog, my husband doesn't worry about me as much. And so part of the thing about solo female travel is the security factor. And a lot of people get really, really nervous and they're like, oh, I would never be out doing solo female travel because it's dangerous. Things happen. What if something goes wrong? How do you navigate those negative Nellies basically in your life? And I think there is, when you first mention solo female travel, I think that there is actually a little bit of a stigma attached to it. And we're going to talk about that also right here, right now. So if you have not subscribed, this is a great time to go ahead and do so. And do give me a like on the live stream, please, because that really helps. What it does is it tells Google algorithms that you have found value in this live stream. And with that, they're more likely to show it. Also, if you share it, that tells them also that there's some value going on with the live stream. So I hope this is going to be helpful if you are indeed looking for solo female travel experiences. So people are a little nervous when I say solo female travel. They don't realize that women traveling by themselves now is really a thing. It's actually an up and coming thing. So I pulled up a couple of websites with some stats on it. So I want to share these with you because I think it's very helpful to understand how many women are out there traveling by ourselves and to understand some of the options out there for solo female travel, because oftentimes, hey, we've got Valerie Reese in the house. How are you, Valerie? I hope you're well. So I think when we think solo female travel, sometimes we get this idea that all of it is going to look like this. Whoops, let me scoot out of the way a little bit. So, and yes, I have lost weight since that picture was taken. But anyway, you get the point. I think that we all feel like it looks like that, or maybe like this. Again, I'm going to scoot over here. I'm going to get completely out of the picture on that one. So, yeah. So we get the idea that solo female travel has to look like that, or it's not solo female travel. In reality, it's whenever you go to leave home and you're by yourself when you leave. That's how I define it. That's how a lot of other people define it. And that's, there are all different kinds of ways that you can do solo female travel. And I obviously do some of the van life. But, even that is kind of limited in the scope, because you may do solo female travel and you might be out with a group because there are tours and so forth that are catering to women traveling solo. Yay, Valerie Reese says she's doing good. Excellent. Excellent. Now, Valerie, if you all have been following some of my recent videos, I'm still posting about the Alaska trip, and you will see Valerie in some of the videos. So do check those out, okay? And for me, half of that trip was solo female travel because I ditched my husband and drove up there. Now, he did meet me up there, but then he flew back home. So there you go. So that was half solo female travel because it was just me, a single woman with a disability, in the van with my service dog, traveling to the great known/unknown of Alaska. So what you want to do is to see Valerie some more and to see some of my adventures, hit my YouTube channel after this live stream, after this video, and look at the mission team's trip to Scenic Hatcher Pass and about volunteering in Alaska to help others. She's also in the video about the Savage River. Check those out for her. And then go check out her channel, which is really cool. Just saying. Just saying. So, yeah. Real quick, some of the statistics around solo female travel. And if I get off track at some point, just type shiny into the description box, okay? So we're going to look at trends in women's solo travel. And this is for 2022. It's the last year that data is still available because obviously we're still in 2023. So 36% of the people who answered, women who answered this survey, says they'll travel solo. 66% is that they're going to purchase COVID insurance. But look at this. 62% of the people say that they are going to go someplace new. And 60% say that they're going to allocate more disposable income to travel. And over half are going to have eco-friendly accommodations. And they're also more likely to book dates closer to the departure date. So we've got some of that factoring in to solo female travel, whether you're doing van life, trips, business, and so forth. And generally it breaks down either into business travel or leisure travel as the two main categories that we have when it comes to travel like this. But I think, and let me go over here to another, it's Skyscanner. You flip this over here. Let's see. Pull this up. Okay. See, here's something that, this is 2019. Non-gender specific study found that 76% of travelers had gone on a solo trip or were considering going. And in women, the interest is growing exponentially. Now, 2019, obviously, that's pre-COVID. Then we all know that COVID upended the world, right, when it comes to travel. But I think it's interesting to look at these stats because it indicates that the trend was already there prior to the great upheaval of 2020. And when we go over to Skyscanner, which is what I was going to show you a minute ago. I just kind of hit the wrong button there. Skyscanner data indicates 54% are considering going solo this year. Now, this was for 2023. And that's from the travel search engine. It's Kayak. It's their data that shows searches for single travelers are higher by 36% for 2023 than in 2022. So what we're seeing is there's actually an approach toward moving closer to those pre-pandemic levels, okay? 1 in 2 travelers, 54%, are considering escaping solo in 2023, with 65% choosing to go their own way because families and friends don't share their travel interests. And that was kind of with me on the Alaska Highway a little bit, because my husband loved the idea of going to Alaska, but he was short on travel time for work, and he really wasn't into some of the places that I had planned to stop if I hadn't had car problems and different things come up, So that's part of the reason behind it. And the other reason behind it is I just like going and having a break. And if you'll look over here, now this is from Dream Big, travelfarblog.com. This stat that they're quoting says in the U.S. alone, over 60,000 women went on a solo trip between 2018 and 2019. So 60,000 women rather, went on a solo trip. And you know what? We tend to think about, we see the van life videos, and we tend to think about, the younger women who are going out there and they're kind of setting the world on fire. But a stat, and I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure I brought it up, and solo female travel age 35 and up is increasing, but over 81% are more than 45 years old. So that's really cool, 45%. Whoops. There we are. I'm sorry, 81% over 45 years old. And this is significant because it takes it out of the realm of youth and students and college age and puts it more into the mature woman who is ready to experience life. She may have already raised her family, be in between, the kids and grandkids stage, or they may be trying to set some examples for the grandkids, right? So there are several things that need to happen for solo female travel to take place if you're a woman traveling by yourself. I'm actually going to do another live stream on that in a couple of weeks. So watch for those notifications. And Tuesday, I'm going to be on a live stream with my husband, and we're going to be talking about how to organize a mission trip. Because my dream someday is to have a women's only mission team going somewhere. But who knows what that's going to be like? We're going to try. So, okay. And solo female travel is growing by over 230%. So how's that? Crazy, right? And so I think there is a tendency to view women who are traveling by themselves as sort of a social misfit, that, women who travel alone don't necessarily fit into society. And I would say that we don't fit into necessarily society's picture of one of the things that a woman should do. We are still overcoming the idea that a woman's life is work, family, home. Not always in that order, which there's nothing wrong with that, but we have to take care of ourselves now and then. And for a lot of people, traveling by themselves is the way that we do it. So again, over 230% of the time, growing numbers there. But there's actually a couple of different categories, and that is women travel by ourselves when we're on business. We have business events, conferences, training, and so forth that we will go to on business. And that is also, women traveling by themselves. And then we have leisure, which can break down into going totally alone, or I mentioned groups a little earlier. Group travel for women who are traveling by themselves is also exploding. So women are really, getting out there and doing groups. Also, some solo travel experiences are with a friend. So, okay, let me back up because I know you're thinking, but it's solo, but it's with a friend. So, what's happening is sometimes women are getting together with a friend and they are sharing the main expenses, the rental car, the hotel, but yet they go on and do separate activities. One may go hiking, one may go to a museum, but they may be staying in the same hotel. So that is still solo female travel, okay? It's just because they're going to the same destination, but they're not doing the same things. Does that make sense? They're mostly sharing the bulk of the expenses, taking care of their own personal stuff, the tour costs, the food, and so forth, but just the bulk of, rental car, hotel room. So all of that goes into solo female travel, which more people are getting into. So we have all of these categories that are taking place that women are experiencing. Now, this is not something that our grandparents necessarily felt comfortable doing because of the, home, work, kids scenario. So we're really in a pretty privileged state to be able to do these things. And when we go off on travel experiences like this, we're also teaching the generation that we're raising, the millennials, the Generation Z. I guess I shouldn't say millennials since some of those are now grandparents, but you came before this Gen Xer, so I'm going to count you, okay? So millennial, Gen Z, Alpha, we're teaching all of them that it's okay to go places by yourself and to experience the world. Now, I know there's some safety issues, and I get that. I had people talking to me about going to Alaska about, what if something happens? It did. It does. It probably will next time. It's like, pick a problem. But generally, if something happens on vacation, it's going to happen at home. If you've got a vehicle problem that you haven't found yet, it doesn't matter if you're home or on the road. Okay. The stress comes in with not having a plan to take care of it. And that's a whole other live stream there. But I want to talk to you for just a minute because of the idea that women don't necessarily fit in that are doing this. Let's take the word female out. Let's just say solo travel. Talking about somebody traveling by themselves. What picture comes to mind? Well, I asked a couple of friends what came to mind in their point, in their idea. And it was really interesting because both of the people that I asked basically said the same thing. And that is one person came up with the idea of a guy with a backpack who's going on a hike across the U.S. And she named the Appalachian Trail. So a guy with a backpack on the Appalachian Trail. That's what came to her mind when I said solo travel. The other thing that a friend of mine said is a guy, an older guy, going on business to a conference. So what did both of those have in common? Just hearing solo travel. So we've got a guy with a backpack going on the Appalachian Trail and a guy on business going to a conference. Hey, we've got Irene here. Iron Firehorse is in the house. Hi, Irene. How are you? I hope your week has gone well so far. So, Irene, I just tossed out asking, when you hear the words solo travel, asking what came to mind. I asked two friends. One said an older guy on a business trip, and the other one said a guy with a backpack hiking, possibly on the Appalachian Trail. And I thought that was really interesting. When you hear, and you don't have to, you type it in the comment section if you want to. But when you hear solo travel, what do you all think of? And I'm saying solo travel, not solo female or solo male. Just what's your picture? Because both of the women that I asked, I was surprised. They both have careers. They both have life, and they've both done lots of really neat things. And I don't want to pick on them, but I just thought that their answers to this were pretty interesting. Because they didn't think about women, neither one of them, and one of them's done solo female travel, okay, but neither one of them thought about women going solo. Both times we were talking about guys. So even though we've got 60,000 people, women who are traveling, and even though that is increasing, we still got some ways to go. And the way we do that is we just go. And let's see, Valerie says she's taken lots of trips by herself. Good for you. Keep doing that. And you all, that's another reason to go look at her channel. And I would encourage you all to go look at Irene's channel, Iron Firehorse. Lots of cool stuff going on both of those channels. But did y'all find it was interesting that neither one of these ladies mentioned men? I mean, mentioned women. It was only men. I wonder if I should do a poll over on Facebook about that. I might just do that and let people. That might be an interesting thing. Now, somebody that I mentioned solo female travel to years ago. It was really interesting. She looked at me and she said, we went through some of the myths, okay, about whether or not women can travel by ourselves and so forth. And she looked at me and she said, oh, well, if you're going to travel by yourself, you've got to have a dog with you, because dogs are perceived as being part of a safety factor. And when you're talking about women traveling, a lot of times we automatically flip and we think immediately, is that safe? Like, I get that all the time. All the time. And my answer is, and y'all have probably heard me talk about it before, I would rather take the chance of there being a random bear on a random overlook out on the side of the Alaska Highway than I would going across a parking lot or a parking garage in downtown. Just my comfort level there. And I will say that having a dog doesn't always help you, because when I was stolen from on the Alaska Highway, my dog never made a sound. When the other folks in the RV, when they were stolen from, their dogs never made a sound. So, yeah. so much for them being a great security thing. So, Irene Iron Firehorse says, here, I would say more women living in vehicles. That's not really solo travel. That's just life. And you've definitely got a point there. But even with that, there are more options now. I think that, going back to the stigma thing, I think that now being in your car is a little bit more accepted because of the van life movement. And there is a difference, though, in whether you're homeless or whether you're houseless. And a lot of people, a lot of women who are on the road doing van life are choosing to be on the road. And Irene made a really good point that for some, it's just life. It's what they have to do. But the perception, and I think it's part of the stigma, honestly, that we're still overcoming in some ways about solo female travel, is that perception that, you know, you're misfits, you're on the fringes. And that's not the case, as evidenced by all the videos. And the fact that Irene said, you know, people living out of the cars, for them, that's life. That's what they have to do. And I would say we need to help in those situations, but you all know me, that's one of my things. And she said, and here's really, you know, in a nutshell, part of what we're looking at, and that is you can do tons of things solo if you have money. Just being out there in your vehicle isn't as safe solo. Money definitely helps for safety. And I do think that's the perception, but there are ways that you can travel on a budget or with little money, as opposed, you don't have to be a rich person to experience travel, especially if you want to do it in a van. Like, one way I did travel was to go on the mission trip. Now, I could never have afforded to do that had the church and people not really stepped up to help me out. But that wound up being, I don't want to say one of my least expensive trips, because it was a long one, but it wound up it didn't cost as much as some people think. Plus, part of it's the way you travel. And we can talk about that in a future video. Let's see. Valerie says that she can remember her first business trip to Chicago by herself. The airport was a nightmare for her, but she survived it. She also survived driving to Chicago by herself on another trip. Okay, Valerie, we knew that you had nerves of steel, but we didn't know how refined that steel is. I have heard horror stories from people many times who drove through Chicago. I have not had that opportunity yet. I did drive through New York on 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. That went okay, but that is on my top 10 list of things to never do again in my life. But we made it. All right, we have Women's Station Channel here. Hey, welcome. Lori is here. Welcome. I'm just glad you're here. And I will toss this out. I have thought about changing the time of this live stream and moving it to 7:30. So you guys can type in whether you think that's a good idea or not. Same night of the week, Saturdays, but just going backwards a little bit to 7:30. And see, here's something. Irene says she hitchhiked out to Western Ontario in 1982, she thinks. That is really cool. And to Western Canada from Ontario. We got that. That's awesome. So that's even going back and having, you know, taking advantage of that ability there, which is really, really cool. So, okay, some of the risks that people keep mentioning to me about all the reasons why I should stay home, and I'm sure some of you all have heard these too, is, well, like the woman said, you've got to have a dog with you. You've got to have a dog for a security thing. Dangerous hotel rooms, which happen, that I shouldn't travel in a van because of list all of the problems and all of the potential issues, and possible break-ins in a van or RV, animal dangers, which happens. Oh, and if you all are on my Facebook page, if you all go over there and look at that, or you can Bing it or Google it, whatever you want to do. There's an RV that was parked in the mountains of North Carolina in a campground, and a bear ripped the side of it off to try to get in. Now, the bear didn't get in, but can you imagine explaining that to your insurance company? I don't think I would want to. And Irene says, she left with $100 in her pocket. LOL, crazy, but it was great. I was young and strong. It helps to be young and strong. And part of the reason I think it helps to be young is you don't realize the dangers yet. You know, you don't have to. Okay, Valerie says she thinks 7:30 would be fine. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm thinking about moving it to that. It seems to fit better with some folks' schedules. So we're looking at that. Yeah, I think one of the things about traveling young is you haven't developed those phobias yet, for the most part. And what is it they say, young and stupid? But I think of it as young and inexperienced. But yeah. And let's see, Valerie says, I never traveled with a dog, but my kids did make me take a cell phone. I got my first cell phone because my kids made me before I left for a business trip. That's a neat idea. Now, I changed cell providers on this trip that I just took to get coverage in Canada. So people could keep in touch with me and I could keep in touch with them. So I think that's a reasonable thing to do, because I think part of traveling by ourselves is to look at what the risks are, because there's going to be risks. Like if we walk across the street, there's a risk that we're going to fall in front of traffic, or that there's going to be some idiot speeding who didn't see us. There's always a risk. So to mitigate that, we're very careful with our footing when we go across the street, or at least I am. And we look both ways. When we're doing solo female travel, we look at the risks and figure out, how do you mitigate those? And I think that's just part of any travel experience, whether you are by yourself, going with family, or going in another group, or going with a girlfriend and sharing expenses. Let's see, Irene is saying that, okay, she knew it was dangerous, already knew other girls who were murdered could happen anywhere. It could. It could. I'm sorry that you knew two girls that happened to, though. Because I think that's everyone's worst nightmare, no matter where they are, whether they're home or by themselves. And a lot of the women, tragically, who that happens to, a lot of it is domestic violence. I won't go into that. That's another show. And let's see, she says, yeah, I mean, that's, and going into the domestic violence thing. Ooh, scary, scary, scary. So in your case, you may have been leaving for safety. Yeah, I can see this. By family, well, stepfather. Yep. That happens all too often. And that is a reason why I think some women do feel safer out on the road. I had the neatest conversation with someone out on the road. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, and we were at a rest area there in Wyoming. And let me see. I don't have a picture. I'm going to put a pretty picture up. But we were in a rest area in Wyoming, and she was traveling solo. She was traveling in her car. She was doing the whole car camping thing. But she said that she had been to all 50 states, all Canadian provinces, and into Mexico by herself, solo. And I think she said on 3 different continents, solo, because her husband just didn't want to go. So rather than stay home and let life, she felt like, pass her by, she went. And we had the neatest conversation. 5 o'clock in the morning, a couple of states, few states away, and just a neat conversation. And so for me, that's one of the things that solo female travel can open up for you, is new ideas, new people, new ways of thinking of things, new ways of looking at things. It's just really, it can be a really cool experience. So, and let's see. Okay, Irene wanted to see her best friend who had moved away. That is so cool. Cool that you had the time in your life. Cool that you had the interest, and cool that you did it. That is so cool. And that kind of leads into what I'm going to talk about in a future live stream, and that is, what do you need to be able to travel solo? And interest and willingness, I think, are like the biggest things. But, well, I don't want to say too much right now. We'll get into that more in a future episode. And if one of you all want to jump in on some of the episodes, let me know. I can send you a StreamYard link. I'm going to be posting about these more over in our Facebook group. She met a 73-year-old lady camping when she was camping, and she thought she was homeless. Oh, no. Do you think part of that was a generational thing? Because I think even now, the older generation has a awakening of thought, an epiphany, when they hear about someone traveling solo. I think we do sometimes expect it out of youth more, especially like if you're talking about van life or voluntourism, missions travel. We hear a lot about mission teams, youth missions, youth work trips, but we don't hear a lot about, women traveling by themselves. That's what I'm trying to change. Okay, and she says, no, it's because we have so many homeless women. Gotcha. In a dressing rags. Well, hopefully you just dress to be comfortable. And there is a lot to be said for being comfortable, whether at home or on the road. Okay, let me see what this is. Okay. Okay, and she says, and my shelter is like a homeless person's, LOL. Okay. Well, there again, hopefully you can be comfortable. That's the big thing, I think, is just to be comfortable. And I don't mean just physically comfortable as in, roof, shelter, food, clothing, but comfortable within yourself. Because I think that is the biggest thing that goes into solo female travel, bigger than anything. If you have to travel on a budget, you're still traveling. If you have all the money in the world and you're going out there, it's still solo female travel. But if you don't have that confidence of self, then you're not going to get out there and you're not going to try to travel. And I think that's one of the saddest things that keeps people at home when they don't need to be. And when I'm talking about travel, let me explain that I'm talking about all kinds of travel experiences, whether you are going across continents or across the country or going across and exploring a different part of town or a suburb that you're not usually into. Let's break this down just a little bit, because travel doesn't have to be going outside of the country, and it doesn't have to even be going outside of your state. There are lots of things in your own backyard that you can travel to and experience, even that are just on the other side of the county, or even just over your county line in the next county. Every place that I've ever lived, every place that I have ever traveled to had some little burg or some little section in another part of the county that people would go see. Case in point, when I lived in Knox County, I lived on one end of the county, and going out into like a little suburb area, there was the town of Farragut. Now, Farragut is a teeny sized town, okay? Sometimes people refer to it as a postage stamp town because it's so small, But out there, even with that, there was a lovely park with historic markers, pretty scenery going up the hill, just really a pretty place. There was a museum over in the city hall. There were restaurants. There was actually another park. Either one of the parks would have been good for a picnic. So you still got some of the travel experience by having the option to go to a different restaurant, to go to a museum, to go to a park. It was just one day, and that's still a travel opportunity. So when I talk about travel, I'm talking about those opportunities as well as everything else, okay? Let's see. Okay, Irene says she wears her stuff until it's done. She's a minimalist. Good word there. And says she loved it once I invited her in and showed her my setup. That's so cool. Flown by herself a bunch of times long ago. Yeah, it's getting harder to do free camping in general now. It's really here. I mean, the big thing was you could spend the night at Walmart, but now so many counties have ordinances against that. That's even getting really hard to find a Walmart. There's still some out there. Truck stops you can always go to. Some different places, but it is harder. And she says except on Crown land, which is good to know. This time I didn't say at any provincial parks, but I did last time. Really pretty campgrounds. Yeah, I think that's a possibility, Irene. I really do. Because it's a parking lot. So don't take out your lawn chairs and don't open your sliders. If you can afford a great big RV like that, you can afford to park somewhere else. Just saying. And I talked to a woman about it, and she was like, but we love the deal. And that's why we got her big RV. So it's like, okay. Cracker Barrels you can park in, some Targets, some Cabela's, some Sam's Clubs. But it's getting a lot harder. And I don't think that's necessarily a backlash on like solo female travel as much as it is just societal. Because personally, I like staying in Walmarts because they have security cameras. And I go and I park under the light and I park where a security camera can see me. And so there is a level of comfort there. But I will say, I was traveling in Kentucky once and called ahead because you always want to call ahead for Walmart. Called ahead and I asked the manager, I'm like, I just need several hours of sleep. Do you let vans spend the night in your parking lot? And he was like, well, no, not officially. And then he says, but if your vehicle can fit in a regular parking space, yeah, we allow it. We just don't like people coming in and taking up 10 parking spaces. So I was like, definitely, I'm in a van. I just need one parking space. And he was like, oh, yeah, spend the night. So I pulled in, I parked, I get out of the van, and I am hanging over into the roadway just a little bit. I was like, ah. So I got in the van and pulled forward. It worked out. I spent the night there. Nobody came knocking on my door. It was all good. Let's see. Stayed at the same provincial park all 3 times this year, but in a variety of spots. There you go. Here, if you go to what we call BLM land, a lot of times it's free. But the big thing is you can't stay more than 2 weeks. You got to move. And Irene says, yeah, the RVs would park all summer, set up tables and chairs, generators running, partying, etc. Yeah, that's just not cool. And nobody wants to hear a loud generator going all night. I will say that. So, of course, with me, I have solar, which is another reason why I park under lights, because you got to figure the solar is going to absorb, a little bit of the light. So, probably doesn't make a huge difference, but for me, if it makes any difference, it's the thing to do. But a lot of people don't understand how I feel comfortable to be out traveling by myself and to be in a van. So it's like I'm always having to explain and always having to justify. And I feel like sometimes women who are traveling by themselves have to justify no matter where they are in life or no matter what kind of traveling that we're doing. Because if you're talking to someone who's got the mindset that women should be work, home, kids, they're not going to understand women doing any kind of travel without their family and kids. They just fundamentally don't get that. One of my most frustrating experiences on the road one time was not when my car broke down, although that was frustrating. Okay, I will say that. Sitting in the parking lot at Sam's Club, I will say that. But that wasn't one of the most frustrating experiences. One of the most frustrating experiences was being in a parking lot, doing van life. I was walking my dog, my previous service dog, and this guy asked me, where was I traveling? And just conversation. He's a friendly guy, older, just general conversation. And then he's like something about, well, I hope you and your husband have fun, or hope you and your husband have a good trip. And I'm like, oh, it's not myself and my husband. He's home. It's just me and the dog. And he looked at me and he goes, well, I would never let my wife do something like that. And then he goes off. And I'm like, I just felt so bad because I'm like, what must it be to be his wife? And you've got a husband that wants to hold you back and not let you be you. So, okay. Irene's saying that BLM is like Crown Land, but you really need a 4x4 vehicle. Yeah, you need that for a lot of BLM land. We've talked about maybe our next van should have 4-wheel drive, but I'm not planning on doing much off-roading. Fly by the seat of my pants. I don't even have a credit card. LOL. I tell you, I had to get one a few years ago, and yeah, they're a blessing and an evil. If you're going to do anything in the U.S. travel related, you basically have to have a credit card. And if you're going into a hotel, sometimes they won't rent to you if you don't have a credit card. It's just very frustrating. Rental cars, you have to have a credit card. Some places still, thank you, COVID. Some places still don't want you to pay with cash. They want you to use a credit card or a debit card. Very frustrating. Okay, Irene says she wasn't allowed to hike by herself because bears were active in the park. Yeah, bears can get a little grumpy. They can. I'm going to see if I can pull this up. Like in North Carolina, they closed this campground because of a bear. You know, the other thing, too, about bears is when they get in your stuff, they just want to tear it up. That's like one of their things. I think they must just feel like it's fun time. But a bear tried its best to get into this RV right through the wall. Right through the wall. So, yeah, they've had to close down the campground on that one. And they're looking at anti-bear measures and all that stuff. But, yeah, I can't imagine explaining that to the insurance company. Like, I would love to be privy to that phone call. On the prairies, there is flatter land, but Ontario is not that flat. The prairies are gorgeous. I'm going to see. I think I've got some photos. I'm going to see if I can pull one up really fast. Because I fell in love with the prairies several years ago when we went, and the prairie land was just yellow. It was absolutely gorgeous. Here we go. I do have a couple of pictures. Okay. Whoops. If I can get them up. Ah. Yes. I'm trying to pull them up.
I just don't know what went wrong.
Yeah, I'm getting it. I hope you all could hear that too, by the way. I just don't know what went wrong was what he was saying. Tried to download a few funny sounds. So, okay. This is one of the prairie shots that I got, and I just thought it was beautiful. Now, I like mountains too, and I like beaches. Every area, though, has just got some gorgeous stuff to it. So I got this one and this one. So forgive the tilt, but Canadian prairie, really cool. Let's see. Exactly what you do is different than people like me. I don't know. I do some. I don't think that sitting at my side alone would be any different or running into a bear with another person with me, so I don't know. I don't know either. I don't know. It's an interesting thought. Irene says she likes rocks, hills, and trees. I find something to appreciate, I think, no matter where I am. Because a part of me is just intensely curious about life. And yeah, that's just me. Because I've got like another pretty place that I thought was really interesting, and a lot of people don't, is a spot out in New Mexico. And I had people, who tell me, oh no, that's just too remote and too desolate, and there's nothing out there. But, there is, and that's part of her ruins too. So I think it's important, though, and that's a wood chipper. I mean, log splitter. We just won't look at that one. It causes hives. But don't you think that part of it is being comfortable and just having that desire to explore and see different things? Because I've always been good at finding things. Just because for me, it's just every part of the country, every part of the continent, I can now say, it's just all different. Okay. Driving through it in winter is harsh. Like last time, I drove through a storm and hit a goose, and it came up under my car, into my car, under my feet. LOL. Paid for the night at a rundown hotel with a dead goose. Oh my stars! So I have to ask this: is it legal in that space, in that where you were? Is that legal to collect and have roadkill for dinner? Don't laugh at me, okay? In Tennessee, it's legal. And the reason it's legal is because so many people hit deer. And I know somebody that hit a cow one time that was out in the road. So because of that, it's legal in Tennessee to collect and eat the roadkill. So, and we are talking about minutes, not days. Canadian survival at its best. Okay, there you go. There you go. But I liked Canada. Actually, there's only been a couple of places that I really didn't like, and that had more to do with the time of year than anything. Like one of the lessons that I learned is you don't go to Vegas July 4th weekend because the heat can be 114. And I don't even know what the heat index was. That was just what the thermometers were reading. Let's see. She says probably not, but no one would do anything. Yeah, now I think about it, it's legal for deer. So, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I know somebody that hit a pig one time. And the thing is, okay, like the person who hit a cow, there was a field full of cows. All had the same type of marking, in the same spot, okay? The cow, same breed as the cows that were safely in the field, but the farmer had never seen that cow before in his life. Absolutely wasn't his. Never saw it before in his life. So the driver was like, okay, I guess I can take it. And the farmer was like, oh yeah, I've never seen that cow before. So it wound up in the driver's freezer. I couldn't do Vegas ever, LOL. I had a friend that moved there, and we wanted to go see her. So I would like to go back, though, because Vegas, really, there are some really cool things to do in Vegas that have nothing to do with a casino. They've got some really interesting museums and so forth. And so I'd like to go back and see more of those. And they're close to a dam. And so I would like to go see the dam. Again, we went out there. We went to the dam last time, and that was really cool. But water levels, geography, everything, or not everything, but a lot has changed. So, yeah, I'd like to go back. I don't do heat. I understand that. I speak that language. Yeah, yeah. I felt bad that he lost the cow, but he might have been on, I guess he felt like he might have been on the hook for car repairs. So, anyway, I don't know. But Irene doesn't do heat. I get that. Before I had the adrenal gland removed, heat was a really big thing for me. I would get sick. I would get sweaty. It was just, I couldn't walk. It was, not that I do a great job walking anyway, but that was worse. So, yeah, I get you. I will never go back in July. Maybe like April, October, one of those shoulder seasons that's cooler. That's when I'm going to go. So, and I've got a girlfriend that says she's interested in going with me, but first I have to figure out what to do with my service dog because of his health issues. Yeah. Valerie said she went to Vegas for the professional bull riders finals. It was years ago. We had a good time, but it was really hot in November. Okay. So maybe I should look like into January or February. But did you find Vegas to be a fun place? Oh, 5-day event. That's cool. I like rodeos. Isn't it always hot there, Valerie? I don't know, but definitely no more 4th of July. And you can't even, like, there's this rule that you can't, like, sit in your car and idle it. So even if you're going to be, like, just dashing into a convenience store, you just want to use the ATM for a minute, the people that are in the car can't leave the car running because they're considered idling. So everybody has to go in while you use the debit card. So, yeah. I'm going to look and see when the best months are with the lowest temperatures in Las Vegas. Okay, this is saying, wow, February, temperatures of around 64 degrees. Hot in July with temperatures hitting higher than 104. And it says Las Vegas never really gets cold. The lowest average temperature is 39 Fahrenheit, 3.9 degrees Celsius in January at night, with 59 degrees in the daytime. That's according to this website that I'm going to pull up. Let's make sure they get their ad money there. Okay. So, yeah, compared to much of the U.S., Las Vegas never really gets cold. So you've got a point. And that's feelingvegas.com. That's the website. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Okay, she said, we did go ATVing through the desert with a group. That was fun. Oh, I bet that would be. I bet that would be. Did you get jostled around a lot? Because that's part of the fun of going in an ATV. Didn't do much on the Vegas Strip. Yeah, I like walking the Strip, but honestly, there's only so much of that you're going to do. Or at least for me. Like, the fountains at the Bellagio were broken. I would have liked to have seen that, But we did some Caesar's Palace. We went to Planet Hollywood because we had the kids with us. They were young at the time. Probably, well, I say young, but probably 13, 14 years old. So Planet Hollywood to them was like the coolest place in the world to eat. But I didn't care what we did, as long as I got to see my friends. So, yeah. So, all right. So, you all, that's about solo female travel, our live stream for this week. I gave an update on my service dog earlier in the video. I'm going to go ahead and do another update just for people who come in a little later. And that is, we are still arguing with the insurance company. Does not look like they're going to pay. I won't go on that rant, but he's still doing crate rest. We have actually taken him out a couple of times because it is so hard emotionally on him as well as physically, I think, because even though he's supposed to be on crate rest and it's supposed to be good for him, he's still in this, it's a crate. He's still in it. And so he goes for the shockwave treatment on the 14th, and I'm still pretty upset about it with the insurance company and upset that he's hurting. And he did better when we took him out the other day. So my husband has fixed a ramp. So we took him out to take care of business, and we let him go up the ramp. And then one day he had some trouble, so my husband just lifted him up and put him in the van because we keep getting told that jumping is the worst thing for him, whether it's jumping on the bed or jumping in the van or whatever, jumping for toys. And so he was in the van, and we took the bed out and put his mats down in the floor and stacked stuff up on the other bed so he couldn't jump on it. He was so confused. He just kept looking at me, and he's like, it was like he was saying, "Where's my bed? I'm supposed to jump on this. I'm supposed to be comfy." And then you could just like see, the confusion. And then finally he got down on his bed, his mats and things that I had put down, and he was okay. But he's super clingy right now. He wants to be held. That is like, oh my gosh. Now, he liked to be held before this happened, but oh my gosh. John put him up in my lap the other day, and he was there for 4 hours. He absolutely was not getting down off my lap. My legs were so tired, so asleep, whatever you want to call it, that it was just, there he is. I think I may have shared this one in the group or on Facebook, but he's just all happy, like when he's in my lap. To me, that looks like he's smiling. So, and that's one that I took when he got out of his crate the other day, because he doesn't want to be in his crate. He wants to be out and about, and I can't blame him. So, I don't know where I am about getting another dog. I don't know. I talked to the program. They did not mention money, and so I am not mentioning it. But hopefully later this spring I'll have another one, but that's a hopefully kind of thing. There's always a waiting period because the dog has to be chosen for you, trained, and it's got to grow up while it's training. So no matter what program you go to, there is always going to be a waiting period. And I'm at the top, close to the top, or at or near the top of the wait list. So we'll see what happens. But I'm so frustrated because he just wants to jump and play. He's a 2-year-old Labrador Retriever. They are not known for just laying in the floor and being still and quiet, So, yeah. Shockwave treatment. Yep, that's what they've got planned. And Irene says her new pup, Tara, isn't supposed to jump up and down on the bed, couch, etc. So I have my mattress on the floor. Yeah, that's a really cool idea. I can't get up if it's on the floor. Like, my leg won't work. Yeah, he did. So, thank you. But 14th, he goes for the shockwave treatment. Hopefully, that will help. We can just see. So the shockwave treatment, I'm looking to see if there's a photo of it. But basically it uses shock waves, like an intense ultrasound thing. And it's supposed to be really good for pain. Let me see. I'm not explaining this good, but it's like high energy sound waves, and they go over all the muscles. And so some disorders it can actually improve, not fix, but improve. So one of the things that we're wondering about is like, is this a musculoskeletal problem, or is it, as the vet thinks, more of a neurological condition from like spinal stenosis? So we won't know for sure without doing an MRI. And at $2,500, $3,000, I can't afford the MRI. The shockwave treatment is going to be $850, or $8 to $850. Plus, it may be a little more if he has meds he has to be on at home. So, like, yeah. So, let me see. Irene says, I'm having a heck of a time, Gail, LOL, especially if I have to go pee. Oh. Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah. And we are very fortunate in one respect, is as a service dog, they tell you if there's a possibility of muscle and joint problem, really more joint problems, to go ahead and start on a supplement. So as a service dog, we actually were able to apply for a grant. And so his supplement, they ship it to us for free. So that's nice. Once he's rehomed, he won't have that because he won't be a service dog anymore. I'm trying to see, there's pictures of them like doing it, like here it is, shockwave therapy on a horse. But I don't really see, here's a handheld device though, so that'll give you an idea of what, it just looks like a giant ultrasound transducer thing, and it's just really heavy shock waves that are supposed to help. So that's what we're hoping for on the 14th. Yeah, now I understand that guide dogs for the blind help you with those cost expenses. And what I mean by helping you, I understand that they take care of it. So I don't know. But I'm really frustrated because we had insurance on him, and insurance is not paying. Like now, their latest thing is they don't see a reason right now to pay. And so I'm like arguing with him. And so now they've gone ahead and requested all his medical records for the entire time that I have had him. And then they're going to look at that, and then they'll make a final judgment. But the question is this something that they should have picked up early on? And is this something that wasn't mentioned, but it was still there? So I don't know. And then I literally have my camp toilet beside my bed in case of an emergency. LOL. So far, haven't had to use it, thankfully. Good. I hope you don't. I know what you mean now. Yeah. It's very frustrating. Okay, good. Me too. I hope she doesn't. Can't believe how bad your insurance is. Right? Like, I am so mad. And even if it was to cover everything, it maxes out at $7,000, and I have this deductible. So basically, I would wind up being stuck, for everything except $6,000. But it doesn't look like they're paying. Frustrating. And honestly, I am finding out that pet insurance is as convoluted as people insurance, and I better not go on that little tirade. Different show, different show. I don't know. One vet says it was congenital, but like the service dog agency probably wouldn't have known about it. There's apparently a couple of congenital things that doesn't show up until the dog's around 2 years of age. So, and he was young when I got him. But I love him, and if I just needed him for a diabetic alert dog, this wouldn't be as much of an issue, but I need him for mobility. But I kind of feel bad in a way about this because he is dead on the mark with diabetic alerts. He is on the mark. When my blood sugar gets to be around 200, which is not often, it's usually like only if I have steroids, then he's pinging me. He knows it. If my sugar starts hitting like 70 and below, he's pinging me. It's like constant hitting me. So, yeah. Thinking of getting insurance for Tara, but after reading it all, I was just confused. Yeah, it's a little convoluted. Good point, Gail. So he was born with it. Possibly. And see, like the MRI would help us know that, but like that's a lot of money, and I mean, who's got $2,500, $3,000 laying around? I don't. So he's an amazing dog. Rehoming, he is like going to the best rehoming place on the planet. Yes, it's my daughter, but this would be an ideal situation even if it wasn't my daughter. 5 acres to play on and explore, an older dog to play with who's, he's not really, he's like almost 9 years old, and he is not an energetic young pup, which will help him because helped mine because he's not able to jump much. And so he's got the older dog to play with. He loves playing with the baby, loves it. Let her climb all over him, and he never moved. But he'll also be able to use some of his service dog skills as a therapy dog because she does outreach, I think she said 4 times a year. So he'll be able to use his skills. The place that we got him from, they train therapy dogs and service dogs the same up to a certain point. And that after that, they split off, and some of them stay at that level and they're professionally trained therapy dogs, and then the others go on for more advanced training to learn how to do things like balance brace and all the mobility work. And so he's got that basic training, so he can be a therapy dog without much problem. So yeah, I know. I love the dog. I really, really do. The problem is I needed one for mobility, and he's not the dog. So, we think about like, do we want to keep him and get another service dog, which would put us into a 2-dog household? And another option was, do we keep him and then he becomes a therapy dog here, and we take him out like in times of disasters and so forth, fires and whatnot. But then if I do that, then I'm going some places with 2 dogs, and it'll be like, no, you can't pet this dog, but you can pet this one. And so one dog is going to be getting lots of attention, and the other dog's going to be seeing that. And I just don't know like how that would work without messing up training. So I think the best thing is to let them go to my daughter's. And she's got over a decade of vet tech experience, and she's had a year at vet school. Well, and she would still be there if the student loans hadn't been so very, very high. So she's got some vet medical background, so she can handle whatever his future cares throws at her. So, yeah. Yeah, I'll still see him. every time I go out to see the grandbaby, I'll be seeing him. So yeah. So that's the update. I'm gonna do a GoFundMe. Um, I've I've come to that conclusion, and we have it set up, and I have it linked with my bank account, but I really haven't done anything with it yet. I was really hoping that the insurance would like come and get with the program, um, but it's just not happening. But I'll show you some photos of him with the baby, and he just did great with her. So here they are. They're in the floor. This was back this summer. The baby's gotten older now, and so here they were in the floor, and she has just picked his leash up and handed it to him. And so he has it in his mouth. So he thinks he's supposed to go on a walk. And they were in the floor, and she was reaching for it. And she's like, "Here you go. Here's your leash." And there she is reaching for it again. So every time she would pick it up and hand it to him, he was like standing up, ready to go walk. But he let her climb all over him. There we go. So he's going to be great with her. So yeah, so that's your heartwarming moment for the live stream. So anyway, well, thank you all for coming out. Tuesday at, I forgot what time. Let me pull that back up. I can't believe I forgot it. But anyway, Tuesday we're actually doing a program with my husband about how to organize a mission trip. And that is at November 7th at 1 o'clock. So that's Tuesday. And we're going to go through the whole process of like how we did it from like start to finish. So if you all know somebody who wants to go on a mission trip and they're not really sure like what's involved, that would be a good segment for them to tune into. So we're going to be doing that. So I hope you all enjoy it. And next week I probably will move to 7:30. That seems to be good. So you too. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. So you all go out and have a great weekend and great week. And remember, always hashtag be bodacious. Don't let life get in the way of living. So we will see you all. You take care. What time Tuesday? It is 1 p.m. Eastern. 1 p.m. Eastern. So I forget what that translates to in Pacific. Does anybody know? 12. I'll have to. Math hurts. Mathing hurts. But anyway, it's 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock your time. Okay, there you go. All right. Well, you guys go and have a great week, and I'll see you Tuesday, and of course some videos between now and then Saturday at 7:30. So good night, you all.